The wind was cold as Ethan climbed the steep mountain path. His boots crunched against the frozen stones and his breath came out in white clouds. He had heard many warnings about this place. The locals called it the Sleeping Mountain. They said strange lights moved around it at night and those who went near never came back. But Ethan was not afraid. He was an explorer, a man who searched for lost technology and ancient secrets hidden across alien worlds. For weeks, he had followed weak energy signals coming from the mountain. Every reading told him that something powerful was buried inside it. Something old, something alive. The climb grew harder as the air turned thin. The mountain was covered in black stone, unlike anything he had ever seen. The rocks looked melted, as if fire had once eaten through them. His scanner beeped softly, showing a strange pulse beneath the surface. It almost sounded like a heartbeat. He stopped and touched the stone wall. It was warm like skin. His fingers tingled. A soft vibration moved through his hand. For a moment he thought he heard something like a whisper, a voice so faint that it could have been the wind. But the sound repeated clearer this time. A woman's voice, calm and tired. "Help me," it said. Ethan froze. He looked around, but there was no one there. The voice echoed again, this time closer. "Please, help me." He followed the sound, moving between narrow cracks in the rock. The path grew darker and tighter until he reached an opening, a hidden cave glowing with faint blue light. Inside, the air was heavy and still. Strange marks covered the walls, glowing symbols that looked almost alive. They reminded him of ancient runes he had seen in alien ruins before. At the center of the cave, something shone. Chains, massive silver chains, hung from the ceiling and disappeared into the floor. They wrapped around a tall stone pillar, glowing faintly with blue fire. Ethan moved closer and gasped. There, bound by the chains, was a woman. Her skin shimmered with a soft silver tone. Her hair flowed down like liquid light, and faint blue energy pulsed from the markings on her skin. She was not human. Her beauty was strange, unearthly. Her eyes were closed, her body still as if asleep. Ethan felt his heart race. He took a step closer, whispering, "Who are you?" The woman's lips moved slightly. Her voice came weak but clear inside his head, not through his ears. "I am Lyra," she said. "You came back." Ethan didn't understand. He had never met her before. "Back?" he asked softly. She smiled faintly, though her eyes remained shut. "You are human." "Yes," he said. "I am. What happened to you? Why are you chained?" "The mountain was my prison," she whispered. "For centuries I have waited. Only a human hand could touch the chain and break it." Ethan felt the air grow colder. The chains glowed brighter now, reacting to his presence. He reached out carefully and touched one. The metal burned hot for a second, then cooled. A spark of blue light jumped from it into his skin. The cave trembled. Rocks fell from above and the ground shook. Lyra's eyes opened slowly. They were bright silver with streaks of blue light swirling inside. She looked at him with sadness and hope mixed together. "You have awakened me," she said. Ethan stepped back, shocked. "I didn't mean to." "It is too late," she said softly. "The seal has broken." Outside, thunder rolled across the mountain. The sound was deep, like the roar of a giant creature waking from sleep. The chains began to hum and faint streams of energy flowed through them into the walls. Ethan grabbed his scanner. The readings went wild. The entire mountain seemed alive. "What's happening?" he shouted. "The guardians stir," Lyra said. "They know I am free." "Guardians?" Ethan asked, confused. "Stone-born watchers," she whispered. "They were made to keep me chained. They will not stop until I am bound again." The light in the cave flickered. Ethan could see faint shapes moving within the stone walls, shadows of giant figures shifting as if awakening. His instincts told him to run, but he couldn't leave her there. He looked back at Lyra. The chains around her arms glowed brighter, almost melting. She winced in pain. "Please," she said. "You must finish what you started. Break the last chain." Ethan hesitated. "If I do, what will happen?" Her silver eyes met his. "Freedom," she whispered, "for me. But danger for you." The cave shook again, harder this time. Stones fell from the ceiling. A deep rumble echoed from somewhere far below. Ethan didn't think. He reached forward and touched the final chain. Blue light burst around his hand. The metal cracked and a wave of energy blasted through the cave. Lyra gasped as the chains shattered one by one. The glowing symbols on the walls vanished. The light dimmed, then flared so bright Ethan had to cover his eyes. When it faded, she was free. The chains lay broken at her feet, still glowing faintly. She stood weakly, her body trembling. Ethan looked at her, speechless. She smiled faintly, then whispered, "Thank you, human." But before he could answer, a loud roar came from deep inside the mountain, a sound of rage and thunder. The ground split open beneath them. Lyra's expression turned to fear. "They are coming," she said. "The mountain remembers." Ethan turned toward the entrance, but the passage was already closing behind falling rocks. The light in the cave turned red. He grabbed her hand. "Then we run," he said. As they fled into the darkness, the walls of the mountain pulsed with light like veins filled with fire. And somewhere deep within, something ancient opened its eyes. The mountain was awake. Ethan and Lyra ran through the twisting tunnels as the mountain shook around them. The air was hot, full of dust and light. Every step echoed like thunder. Behind them, the sound of stone grinding against stone grew louder. The guardians were waking. Lyra's legs were weak. She had not moved for centuries. Ethan helped her, holding her arm as they ran. The light on her skin flickered, fading with every breath. "We can't outrun the mountain," she whispered, struggling to keep up. "We have to try," Ethan said. "There's a way out above. I saw light earlier, but the path was changing. The walls moved, shifting like living creatures. Rocks fell, sealing passages. The ground beneath them cracked. Blue energy pulsed through the floor, chasing them like veins of fire. Lyra stopped suddenly. Her eyes glowed faint silver. "The mountain knows I am free," she said quietly. "It wants to take me back." Ethan looked at her, confused but determined. "Then we fight back," she smiled weakly. "You do not understand. These chains were not only metal. They were made from my power, bound to my soul. When you broke them, our energies connected. You carry part of the curse now." Ethan looked at his hand. The skin where he touched the chain still glowed faint blue. He felt warmth spreading through his veins, slow and heavy. "What does it mean?" he asked. "It means," she said softly, "that your life is now tied to mine." The ground shook again. A loud roar filled the cave. From the shadows ahead, huge shapes appeared, stone figures with burning eyes, their bodies covered in glowing symbols. They moved slowly, heavy as mountains, but each step made the ground tremble. Lyra's voice turned sharp. "They were made to keep me asleep. If they reach me again, they will rebuild the chains." Ethan pulled her behind a rock. "There must be another way out," he said, scanning the cave with his light. "There is one," she said. "But it will not be easy." She raised her hand and the air shimmered. For the first time, Ethan saw her true power. The blue light around her hands pulsed like living fire. She closed her eyes, and the ground opened beneath them, revealing an old stone stairway leading deeper inside the mountain. Ethan hesitated. "Down? We should be going up." "The heart of the mountain," Lyra said. "It is the only place the guardians fear. It was where they were born, and where their power can be broken." They hurried down the stairs as the guardians roared behind them. The passage was narrow, the air cold now, thick with dust and the smell of old metal. Ethan's light flickered. Lyra moved beside him, glowing faintly in the dark. After some time, the tunnel opened into a wide chamber filled with floating crystals. They hummed softly, pulsing in rhythm with the energy inside Lyra. She touched one gently and it brightened, filling the chamber with blue light. "This was once my home," she said softly. "Before the curse, before the chains." Ethan looked around. "Your people did this to you?" She nodded slowly. "I broke their law. I loved a human when our worlds first met. They called it a crime against purity. My kind feared the bond between human emotion and our power, so they chained me to silence." Ethan felt anger rise in his chest. "That's not justice. That's cruelty." She looked at him, her eyes soft but filled with sorrow. "It is the way of powerful races. They fear what they do not understand. You are the first human I have seen since then. Your touch woke me because it carries the same spark." Ethan didn't speak. He felt something strange stir inside him, a connection deeper than logic or reason. The air around them was thick with energy. He could feel her heartbeat inside his mind, faint and slow. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from above. Dust rained down. The guardians had found the passage. Their heavy steps shook the walls. Lyra turned toward the sound. "They are coming," she said. "If they reach this chamber, they will destroy everything." Ethan stepped forward. "Tell me what to do." She looked at him with quiet trust. You cannot fight them with weapons. The chains were forged from my soul. Only my energy can stop them, but I am too weak. You must lend me your strength." Ethan nodded without hesitation. "Take what you need." She reached out and placed her hand on his chest. The light around her spread into him. His body shook as energy surged through his veins. For a moment he saw flashes. Her memories, her pain, the centuries of silence and loneliness. Lyra's power flared bright blue, and the crystals around them began to rise. The mountain groaned as the chamber filled with light. Outside the doorway, the first guardian appeared, its eyes burning red. Lyra whispered, "Then we fight together." And as the first blast of energy struck, the entire mountain roared like a living beast, echoing across the dark alien sky. The chamber shook as the first guardian entered. It was massive, shaped like a warrior carved from stone and fire. Its eyes burned with red light, and every movement sent waves of energy across the floor. Behind it, more shadows moved, their heavy steps echoing through the tunnels like drums of war. Ethan stood beside Lyra, his chest still glowing faint blue from the power she had shared with him. He could feel her heartbeat inside his mind, fast and frightened but steady. Lyra lifted her hand, and the air shimmered around her like ripples on water. "They are not alive," she said softly. "They were once protectors, but after my imprisonment they became slaves to the curse. They will not stop until they see me bound again." Ethan took a step forward, gripping the small weapon he had brought from his ship. It was useless against creatures made of stone, but he refused to stand by and do nothing. "Then they'll have to go through me first," he said. Lyra looked at him, a faint smile touching her lips. "You have the heart of a warrior, human. But they do not fear pain or death. Only power greater than their own can stop them." The first guardian raised its arm. The ground split open, sending a wave of molten rock toward them. Ethan pulled Lyra to the side as the heat burned the air. The crystals in the chamber shattered one by one, filling the space with sparks of blue light. Lyra closed her eyes, gathering what remained of her strength. The marks on her skin began to glow again. The blue light grew brighter until the entire cave shone like a star. She whispered an ancient word, and the energy burst forward, striking the guardian's chest. The creature stumbled back, cracks spreading across its stone body. But instead of falling, it roared, and the cracks began to close. The curse was healing it. Ethan looked around for an escape. The stairs they had come from were already gone, swallowed by the trembling earth. Only a narrow tunnel on the far side remained open. "There," he shouted. "We can make it if we move now." Lyra nodded weakly. The blast had drained her. Ethan helped her up, and together they ran through the tunnel as the guardians followed, breaking through walls and stone with their heavy fists. The tunnel twisted downward. Strange blue symbols lit the walls as they passed. Ethan could feel the mountain breathing again, as if it were alive and angry. The air was thick and hot, and the deeper they went, the louder the sound became, a low hum that felt like a heartbeat. Lyra touched the wall as she walked. "This is the core," she said softly. "The heart of my prison. It feeds the guardians with endless power. If we destroy it, the mountain will sleep again." Ethan stared at her. "And if we don't?" "Then it will keep hunting us," she said. "And one day it will reach your world too." They entered a vast open space glowing with blue fire. A crystal the size of a house floated in the center, pulsing with light. The walls around it were covered in chains made of energy, the same ones that had once bound Lyra. Ethan could feel them humming in the air like a song of sorrow and rage. Lyra fell to her knees. "This is where they chained my soul," she whispered. "Every pulse of this heart is a piece of me still trapped." Ethan knelt beside her. "Then let's set you free completely." She looked at him, her eyes shining with disbelief. "If we break this core, the curse will end, but it will consume the one who touches it." Ethan smiled faintly. "You said our lives are linked now. Then maybe it's time we face this together." The guardians roared behind them, the tunnel collapsing as they drew near. Lyra stood again, her body surrounded by light. "Join your strength with mine," she said. Ethan placed his hand over hers. The energy between them flared. The markings on his skin burned brighter, matching hers perfectly. Together they reached toward the glowing crystal. The air turned white with heat. The mountain screamed. The guardians froze mid-step, trapped by the power radiating from the core. Lyra and Ethan shouted the final word together, and a beam of light shot from their joined hands into the crystal's heart. It shattered in silence. For a moment, everything stopped. The noise, the shaking, even time itself. Then a wave of pure energy exploded outward, throwing both of them across the chamber. When the light faded, the guardians were gone. The tunnels were silent again. Only dust and dim blue sparks floated in the air. Ethan tried to stand, but his vision blurred. The glow on his skin dimmed slowly. Lyra crawled toward him, her body weak but alive. She reached out and touched his cheek. "You saved me," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "We saved each other." But before he could say more, the mountain gave one last deep tremor, and the floor beneath them began to collapse. Lyra grabbed his hand as they fell into the darkness below, the faint blue light of the shattered heart following them down into the endless depths. When Ethan opened his eyes, everything was quiet. The light from the shattered crystal had faded, leaving only soft blue dust floating in the air. He lay on cold stone, his body aching from the fall. The walls around him were cracked but still glowing faintly. The mountain had stopped shaking. He looked to his side and saw Lyra. She was lying motionless, her silver hair spread out like liquid light. For a moment he feared she was gone, but then her chest moved slow and weak. He crawled closer and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Lyra, can you hear me?" Her eyes opened, glowing faintly. "We are alive," she whispered. "The heart of the mountain is broken. The guardians will sleep again." Ethan sighed in relief. "Good, then it's over." But Lyra shook her head slowly. "No, Ethan, the curse is not gone. It only changed." She sat up weakly, her hands trembling. The light that once surrounded her was fading fast. "The chains were broken, but the power that bound me needed a new vessel. It has found one." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" She looked at him with sorrow. "The curse has chosen you." He glanced down and saw the marks on his arms glowing faintly blue, the same symbols that once covered her chains. "No," he said softly. "It can't. It already has," she whispered. "When you touched me, when you broke my bonds, you took my burden. Now the curse will feed on your life instead of mine." Ethan felt a cold weight in his chest. His pulse slowed. The glow on his skin spread like fire under the surface. "Then what happens to you?" Lyra lowered her gaze. "I live." "Because of you," he sat back, stunned. "You mean I freed you by trading my life?" She nodded. "I never wanted this. I was meant to sleep forever, to keep the curse buried with me. But you came, and your touch woke what should have never been awakened." Ethan stared at the broken ceiling above them. The faint light from the surface shone through the cracks. "There must be a way to stop it," he said. "Something we can do." "There might be," Lyra said quietly. "But it comes with a cost greater than death." He looked at her. "Tell me." She touched his chest lightly, feeling the glow through his skin. "If you return me to the heart of the mountain before sunrise, the curse will leave you and bind to me again. But if the sun rises while it still rests in you, it will stay forever, and you will become what the guardians were, trapped, neither alive nor dead." Ethan didn't hesitate. "Then we go back." Lyra shook her head. "You will not survive the path. The power of the curse will drain you with every step." He smiled faintly. "You said that about the guardians too, remember?" Lyra looked at him for a long moment, then smiled sadly. Humans never stop fighting even when the battle is already lost. He helped her stand. Together they began climbing through the broken tunnels. The air grew colder, and the blue light faded with every step. Ethan's breathing slowed. His hands trembled, and the glow beneath his skin grew stronger, spreading toward his heart. Lyra kept glancing at him, her expression full of worry. "Stop," she said finally. "You're dying," he shook his head. "Not yet." They reached a narrow passage that led to the surface. Through the cracks, the first signs of dawn were visible, the pale light of morning touching the clouds. Lyra stopped, staring at it with fear. "We are too late," she whispered. Ethan leaned against the wall, struggling to stay on his feet. "Then I guess this is it." Lyra turned to him, her eyes full of pain. "No, I will not lose you." She pressed her hands against his chest. The air shimmered around them. "There is another way," she said, "but it will bind us forever. Your soul will not fade. It will live within mine. You will never die, but you will never return to your world." Ethan looked into her eyes. "If it keeps you safe, I don't care where I am." She hesitated, tears in her silver eyes. "You don't understand what that means. You will become part of me. Your thoughts, your voice, your heart, they will exist only inside mine." He smiled weakly. Then I'll never leave you alone again. For the first time, Lyra's expression softened into something more than sorrow. She placed her hand over his heart and whispered an ancient word. The marks on his skin flared bright blue, and his body began to fade into light. He didn't resist. He looked at her one last time and said, "Promise me you'll keep living." "I promise," she whispered. The light around them rose, filling the entire tunnel. The wind outside stopped. The sound of the mountain fell silent once more. When the brightness faded, only Lyra remained, standing beneath the soft glow of dawn. She placed her hand on her chest. Beneath her skin, she could feel a second heartbeat, steady and human. Ethan was gone, but he was not lost. He lived within her now, part of her soul, watching through her eyes as the first sunrise she had seen in centuries lit the mountain peaks in gold. And far away, the mountain sighed as if it finally understood peace. The first rays of morning touched the mountain peaks, painting the black stone with gold. Lyra stood in silence, her silver hair moving softly in the cold wind. She could still feel Ethan's heartbeat inside her chest. His presence was faint but warm, like a whisper that never faded. Every breath she took carried a trace of him. For a long moment she didn't move. The air was calm, but the mountain was not. Deep below, something stirred again. The broken chains buried within the rocks began to glow faintly, one after another. The curse had not died, it had only shifted its form. Lyra looked toward the horizon. The world beyond the mountain was vast, filled with forests, rivers, and life she had not seen in centuries. She should have felt joy. Instead, she felt the weight of what she had done. Ethan was gone because of her. The curse had taken him, and even though his soul was safe inside her, he no longer had a body, no future, no home. She whispered to the wind, "You should have never come here, human." The wind answered with silence, but inside her mind, a voice spoke faintly. "I would have come anyway." It was Ethan's voice, faint but real. Lyra closed her eyes, smiling sadly. "You're still with me." "Always," he said. "But I can feel the curse. It's not done. It's waiting." She nodded slowly. "I know. The heart is gone, but the power still breathes through the mountain." The air grew cold again. The ground under her feet trembled. The mountain's shadows thickened. Lyra turned toward the sound, and her eyes widened. A figure stood at the edge of the cliffs, a guardian, broken but alive. Its stone body was cracked from the battle, but its core still glowed faint red. It moved slowly, dragging one heavy arm. "You cannot escape the exchange," it said in a deep voice. "One soul must remain bound to the mountain. The balance must be kept." Lyra's hands tightened. "He already paid the price. Leave him be." "The curse does not care," the guardian replied. "It was made by law, not mercy." "A life for a life. A heart for a heart," Ethan's voice echoed inside her. "Don't let it take you," Lyra stepped forward. "You gave me your strength. You gave me life again. Now it is my turn to give it back." She raised her hand and blue light flared around her. The guardian roared and lunged forward, its steps shaking the ground. She moved fast, her body glowing brighter with every breath. The power of the curse answered her call, burning through her veins like fire. The guardian struck, but she blocked its arm with a wall of pure light. The mountain trembled and cracks opened around them. "You cannot fight forever," the guardian growled. "I don't need forever," Lyra said. "I just need one choice." She focused her energy, pulling it inward. The light around her body turned blinding. Ethan's voice grew louder in her mind. "Lyra, stop!" "You'll destroy yourself." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You saved me, Ethan, now I save you." The guardian raised both arms, trying to crush her, but it was too late. Lyra released the energy in one final burst. The mountain exploded with light. The guardian froze mid-step, cracks spreading across its entire body until it shattered into dust. The wind carried the pieces away. Lyra fell to her knees, gasping for breath. Her power was fading fast. The curse inside her pulsed like a dying heartbeat. She looked down at her hands. The glowing marks were disappearing. Ethan's voice echoed one last time, softer than before. "You shouldn't have done that." She smiled faintly. "I didn't want to live in a world without you." The mountain began to calm. The air cleared and the light of dawn spread across the sky. The ground beneath her stopped shaking, and for the first time in centuries, silence filled the valley. Lyra collapsed onto the cold stone. Her eyes closed slowly as exhaustion took her. Moments later, a warm light surrounded her. Ethan's presence returned, stronger, clearer than before. She could feel his soul merging deeper into hers. not fading but becoming part of her essence. The curse had broken its chains, but their bond remained. When Lyra opened her eyes again, she was lying on soft grass. The mountain behind her was quiet, its black stones now covered in faint blue moss that shimmered under the morning light. Ethan's voice whispered in her thoughts. "You did it," she smiled weakly. "No, we did it." She stood slowly, looking at the world around her. The trees were alive with strange birds, and the wind carried the scent of freedom. But deep in her heart, she knew the story was not over. The curse was gone. Yet the connection between them had created something new. Something neither human nor alien could ever fully understand. As she walked down the mountain path, she whispered to the voice inside her, "If we are one now, then we'll live as one." And somewhere inside her, Ethan's voice answered with quiet warmth, "Then let's see what kind of world waits for us." The mountain stood silent behind them, no longer a prison, but a witness to their choice, the exchange that turned a curse into an eternal bond. The mountain was silent for a day and a night, but the peace did not last. Beneath the calm surface, the curse that once ruled it began to stir again. The light of dawn had barely touched the horizon when Lyra felt it, an old cold pull inside her chest. It was the curse's heart trying to return. She stopped walking and looked back at the black peaks behind her. The blue moss that covered the stones was burning away, replaced by cracks that glowed red from within. The mountain was bleeding fire again. Ethan's voice spoke softly inside her. "It's not over." Lyra clenched her hands. "The curse is looking for another host. It's trying to rebuild the chains. Then we stop it," he said. She turned and began climbing back toward the peak, her steps strong and sure despite the pain. The closer she came, the louder the sound grew. The mountain's heartbeat had returned, slow, heavy, angry. When she reached the top, the ground split open in front of her. From the crack rose a shape larger than anything she had ever seen. It was not one guardian this time. It was all of them joined together, their broken forms fused into one colossal creature. Its eyes burned like suns, and its voice shook the sky. The balance was broken. One must fall. Lyra stood firm, her silver hair whipping in the storm. "You had your balance," she said. "But you took too much." The creature raised its arm and the ground cracked apart. Lava poured from the mountain's heart, spilling across the slopes. She stepped back, feeling Ethan's presence fill her mind again. "Let me help," he said. "Use my strength." She closed her eyes. "Your strength is already mine." The marks on her arms began to glow again, brighter than ever before. The wind swirled around her, pulling light from the air. She raised both hands toward the sky, and the blue energy burst from her body, forming a protective sphere around her. The creature swung its massive arm, striking the shield. The impact sent shockwaves through the valley. The shield cracked, but Lyra held firm. She shouted over the roar, "You cannot chain love. You cannot bind a soul that chose to be free." The guardian's voice was deep and hollow. "Love is a weakness. It destroys worlds." Lyra's voice was calm. "Then let it destroy mine." She pushed both hands forward. The blue light exploded outward, striking the creature's chest. The mountain shook under the force. The red glow dimmed, but the monster didn't fall. It reached down, grabbing her in a fist of stone. Pain ripped through her body. She screamed, and Ethan's voice echoed in her mind, desperate and strong. "Fight it, Lyra! Don't give in." She could feel the curse trying to take her again, forcing its way back through her veins. But this time she was not alone. Ethan's spirit flared inside her like fire, burning the darkness that crawled through her blood. He spoke again, clearer now. "Let me go, Lyra. If the curse needs a heart, let it take mine." Tears streamed down her face. "No, I won't lose you again. You already carry me," he said. "This time it's my turn to protect you." The guardian tightened its grip, but Lyra closed her eyes and placed her hands over her heart. "Then we do it together," she whispered. The mountain lit up from within. The blue and red light collided, shaking the heavens. Ethan's energy merged with hers completely. For the first time, their souls became one flame. The power rose through her body, past her voice, through her hands. She broke free of the creature's grip and flew upward, glowing like a second sun. The guardian roared, trying to shield itself, but it was too late. Lyra gathered every piece of energy she and Ethan shared and sent it into one final strike. The explosion was silent. A wave of pure light spread across the mountain, erasing the darkness, the lava, the fire, and the curse itself. When the light faded, The guardian was gone. The mountain was nothing but stone and wind again. Lyra floated down slowly, her body weak but still breathing. Her glow faded as she touched the ground. She looked at her hands, no marks, no curse, only warmth. Inside her mind, Ethan's voice was faint but peaceful. "It's done," she whispered softly. "Where are you?" "Everywhere," he said. "In the wind, in the light, in you." Her eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. "Then I'll never be alone." The sun broke through the clouds, shining on the once dark mountain. The black stone turned silver under the morning light. Lyra stood there, silent and strong, as the last traces of the curse vanished into the sky. She knew Ethan's sacrifice had saved not only her, but the world beyond. The mountain was no longer a prison. It was a monument to what they shared. A place where love had defeated the chains of eternity. She turned away, walking down the slopes where flowers were already beginning to grow in the cracks. Each step she took carried a soft echo, his heartbeat within hers, and somewhere high above, the wind whispered through the peaks, carrying his voice once more. "You set me free too." Centuries passed. The mountain that once burned red with fire now stood calm and silver under the twin suns. The people of the nearby valleys had forgotten its true name. They called it the Sleeping Peak, a place of silence, beauty, and mystery. None knew what had truly happened there, only that strange blue flowers grew on its slopes and glowed softly under the moonlight. But the mountain was not empty. Deep within, a faint heartbeat still pulsed through the stone. Lyra walked the quiet paths that circled the mountain's base. She looked the same as she had centuries ago. Time no longer touched her. Her silver hair shimmered under the light, and her eyes carried a calm glow. She lived among the humans now, quietly helping travelers, healers, and lost souls who wandered too close to the ancient peak. They called her the Lady of the Light, never knowing who she truly was. Inside her, Ethan's spirit still lived. His voice was softer now, like a constant breeze in her heart. Sometimes he spoke, sometimes he only listened, but his presence never left. Together they had watched generations come and go, wars rise and fade, and the world rebuild itself around peace. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, Lyra felt something strange. A pull, faint but familiar, coming from deep within the mountain. It was the same energy that once cursed them, but now it felt different, gentler, almost calling her home. She climbed the old trail, the same one Ethan had taken so long ago. The air grew colder, the sky turned dark, and stars filled the heavens. The wind carried whispers from the past, the sound of chains breaking, of stone cracking, of hearts joining. At the top, she found what she didn't expect. The cave was open again, filled with soft blue light. The runes on the walls glowed faintly, no longer symbols of imprisonment but of balance. In the center stood a statue carved from stone, a human figure holding glowing chains in his hands. Ethan. Lyra's breath caught. For hundreds of years she had felt him inside her, unseen, formless. But now, here he was, turned to stone yet alive through the energy that pulsed around him. She stepped closer, her fingers trembling as she touched the statue's chest. The stone was warm, beating faintly with light. Tears welled in her eyes. "You waited," she whispered. The mountain responded with a deep hum, soft like a lullaby. The blue light grew brighter, wrapping around both her and the statue. The chains in Ethan's hands began to crack, glowing brighter until they shattered into dust. The air filled with light. The ground trembled, not with anger but with life. The statue's chest rose slowly, the stone turning to flesh, the color returning to his skin. Ethan's eyes opened, glowing the same blue as hers. He looked at her, confused at first, then smiled. "Lyra," he said softly, his voice human again. "You came back." She laughed through her tears, pulling him into her arms. "You never left," she said. For a long time they said nothing. The wind outside the cave was calm, the mountain glowing with a soft silver light. The curse was gone. The bond that once trapped them had become their bridge to eternity. Ethan looked around. "How long has it been?" "Too long for me to count," she said. "The world has changed. The wars are over. The people live in peace now." He smiled faintly. "Then maybe it's time we see that world together." They walked out of the cave hand in hand. The air outside was cool and full of life. The valley below was green again, the rivers running clear, and the twin suns rising slowly over the horizon. Birds circled the mountain peaks and the blue flowers glowed brighter as they stepped into the light. Ethan stopped for a moment, looking back at the cave. "Do you think it's truly over?" Lyra nodded. "The mountain remembers what we gave. It will never take again. It will only watch." He squeezed her hand gently. "Then let's make something worth remembering." Together they walked down the mountain, their shadows long against the silver stones. They found a quiet valley where the air was warm and the nights were full of stars. There they built a home, not of stone or chains, but of peace. And as years passed again, travelers spoke of a strange couple who lived by the base of the sleeping peak. The woman glowed like the moon, and the man's eyes carried the calm of the sky after a storm. Some said they were spirits guarding the mountain. Others believed they were the last of the old gods. But those who saw them up close told a different story. They said the woman laughed like sunlight, and the man smiled as if he had seen eternity and chosen love instead. One night, under the twin moons, Ethan looked at Lyra as they sat by the river. "You think they'll ever know the truth?" he asked. Lyra smiled softly. "They don't need to. The truth is in the mountain, in the wind, in us." And as the night fell silent, the peak glowed faintly one last time. Its light reached the stars, carrying their story across the sky. A story of a human and an alien woman, of chains broken, of love stronger than curses, and of a mountain that would never sleep again. The legend of the sleeping peak began there. And for those who listened closely on quiet nights, the wind still whispered the same ancient words: "Love never dies. It only waits."